So I'm on my Facebook page. Is it just going to pop up live? Oh, heck, we're on.
All right, we're live. No one's on yet. All right.
Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome to Inside Sports Medicine. Do I have to pay Dirk every time I play that? How does that work? Welcome to Inside Sports Medicine, live episode 695. I'm your host, Dr. T.O. Sorial. In the studio, Dr. Mayer is here on the other side of the glass. Saad is here. He's doing double duty today, answering the phones and working the boards. This is your sports medicine current events show where the topics are ripped right off of the sports desk. Over the next couple of hours, yes, I said couple of hours, you're going to be informed, entertained, and hopefully learn something new. You will have the opportunity to call in or text in your questions. We're going to show that over and over and over again, the phone numbers and the text machine numbers. So we are back to the future. I always like that term, back to the future. Remember those movies?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay. Back to the future. Why do I say we're going back to the future? Well, because we are live on Facebook, or at least I hope we are live on Facebook. We used to be, oh gosh, this goes way back. This is 10 years ago, when the studio was elsewhere, before we moved to Victory. When the studio was elsewhere, the ESPN studios were outfitted with cameras. Is that the music from Back to the Future? Oh, good production work. Good production work. Saad's on his game this morning. When the studios were back elsewhere, they were outfitted with cameras, and they were built in. There were cameras up overhead. There was cameras on the sides. There were cameras everywhere. I will say they were not the highest quality cameras, in that it was difficult to tell who was who. But nonetheless, it was a fun little experiment. This was, again, a decade ago. And all of our shows were carried live on the ESPN website. And one of the fun things that we did in order to see if people were watching, I would wear a certain team jersey, and those who could see me live would text us and try to identify the jersey, and if they got it right, they got a t-shirt or something. I don't remember what we did. Back to the Future, we now have a Venmo camera. Is that what it's called?
That's how you pay people. Don't worry. Just leave the technology to me.
Look, I don't know anything about Instaface. I don't know anything about that stuff.
That's a Belichick quote, Instaface. I like that one.
So now we have a camera in the studio, and apparently it's like high def or something. And you can watch us live on Facebook if you wish. We are, I say we, Dr. Mayer has been working on this now for about a month. He's got the cables, he's got the headphones, he's got the director chair. So all that being said, we're experimenting today.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how the sound, how all that works. But hopefully it works well. But the good thing is it'll be recorded, it'll be saved. So a lot of these episodes can eventually become, on the YouTube channel. You can catch up little segments here and there. You can watch some of it and catch up. You don't have to wake up at 7 a.m. You can have a bunch of different avenues to follow up or watch it at your leisure.
So all that being said, we're going to call this the Back to the Future episode. And I do want to remind you this is a call-in show, so you will have the opportunity to call in, and I strongly recommend that if you do have any questions for us, sports medicine questions preferably, call in the first hour. That's when you have the best opportunity of getting on. The second hour gets a bit more crowded, but nonetheless, we'll do our best to take all the phone calls. 855-787-1033. By the way, all radio stations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's a 787 number plus their call letters or their call numbers. So, 1033 obviously is the number for ESPN. So 855-787-1033. In order to text us in your comments or questions, it's 21,000, 21000. Start off with the 4 letters ESPN. Those texts will come directly to us, and we check them as we go. Your demographics, your questions, your comments, hey, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, I'm switching the channel, that sort of thing. So without any further delay, we're going to take a quick little break after this little 2-minute break. We're going to come back with the contents of the week. Episode 695 on Inside Sports Medicine. Sorial and Mayer coming right back. So how'd that go? Were we live?
Oh, we're live. They're still live.
Oh yeah, right. We have to be careful what we say. All right, so I'm going to go to my...
I'm just trying to figure out on the sound from what I hear through my head.
Renee Corbett.
Yeah, she said the quality looks great. The question is the sound.
All right, so hang on. So we're a lot. All right, so hang on. So I can't tell. Are you now switching? So it's now on you, right?
No, it's widescreen.
Okay, widescreen.
But now it's switched to you. I don't know. So
I can't tell if it's live.
No, the problem is it's picking up whoever talks off that mic.
Oh.
And it's jumping, and I'm trying to shut that off. Or it's based on motion. I can't even figure it out. No, because now it just went to me. So it's going. I don't know how to keep it there.
Is there a delay?
Let me see. I don't know.
There's got to be a delay because.
Well, there's a little delay.
It hasn't picked up my wave.
Yeah, but I don't. Make this
now it's you.
Yeah, I can't stop the tracking.
Back in the day when we were live, people said I was fidgety. Oh, dude, there's easily a 1-minute delay.
It's not that much of a delay.
Yeah, I raised my hand about a minute ago.
It's not that far.
All right, do something. Now let's see how long it takes. I'm going to time it.
Okay, I'm going to raise my arm. I just saw it move, though.
I just saw it move, just now.
Oh, Renee said there's no delay on this end, so it's streaming nice to them. So they see a smooth feed. It just may delay from what we say to what in real time.
I just saw a 20-second delay between the time you raised your hand and the time I saw it.
Yeah, but that's okay. But the audio and there is no delay on when you're watching the show.
How do they know I'm not watching the show? Well, why is there a delay on my phone but not on Renee's phone?
There's no delay on hers.
Raise your hand one more time.
There's not a delay on hers. It's what happened. Don't worry about what happened in real time here. As long as the audio and everything is produced similar.
Oh, I get it.
She says it's great. She's texting me there. I'm getting messages on Facebook right now. It's scrolling on. People are saying good morning to us.
So the I with the 5 next to it, that means 5 people are watching?
Yeah.
Okay. 6. Everybody's waking up. Tell your friends.
I guess. I have no idea.
Tell your friends, people.
But I don't know how the audio is getting picked up right now. If it's being picked up through that mic, but I have the mic shut off through here. So it should be only going through this feed, unless it's picking up on both.
Oh, no.
I have no idea.
Wait. So we're going to come back with the NFL draft?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I know. I guess we're good. I guess I did all this right. I'm trying to play with it right now to figure out. Okay, Renee says they're only hearing what's in the studio. They're here. If they're here in the studio, then that mic is still picking up. So then I don't know what the deal is with this feed. Yeah, they just don't hear sod. Well, that's fine. They're not going to hear sod.
Well, but they're not going to hear the phone call.
Yeah, they're not going to hear sod. Well, they should hear the phone calls with this. That's why I had this plugged in. But what I'm trying to figure out is how is that picking up sound through there, or is it picking up sound through here?
Ask Renee if she's hearing the ads.
We'll text her.
Text her if she's hearing the ads.
And they shouldn't be hearing the ads.
Well, if you're plugged in, they would be hearing
But
the
if I'm plugged in from here. This is what I'm getting the output from.
Oh.
If I don't hear it here, they shouldn't hear it there. So they should hear anything I'm hearing here. What I'm hoping. I can't figure how to make this thing stop jumping around.
Does anybody have any idea where Azerbaijan is? Why do I ask? Well, because I got up early this morning. Actually, earlier than usual. I got up at 4:30 this morning. And went down to check the sports channels. And the Formula One race, they had Formula One. I don't really understand it. But the Formula One race was from Azerbaijan. And so I was watching, and they had some overhead shots, and what a cool looking town. But I realized, and I'm kind of a geography nut, I love to know where things are, I love to stare at maps. I don't know where Azerbaijan is. Saad?
Okay, while you're done pondering that, I got great text questions.
Already?
Yeah, and long-time listener, 31-year-old Rockwell mechanic. This is a great question. Can I cut you off on Azerbaijan?
I'm not done with Azerbaijan yet. So, wait, and I'm going somewhere with this.
All right.
If someone can text us, don't text and drive. Don't watch Facebook, text and drive. But give me just a ballpark of where it is. I'm assuming it's in Asia. Any of the Johns are in Asia.
Okay.
I'm not. 21,000, start off with the 4 letters, ESPN. Educate me on where Azerbaijan is.
Yeah.
I'm done.
And let us know if, now that we're back on Facebook Live and eventually it'll be on YouTube and all the podcasting, I hope I'm doing this right on the setup. I mean, this is 2 orthopedic docs.
I know.
Hopefully I'm tech savvy enough to get this right. The only thing I worry about is the audio. I think the stream and everything is probably fine. I hope the audio comes across well. Anyways, this is a kind of a business of medicine question, but a great question.
Okay.
And I think we should answer it. So
go for it.
So the question starts off, hey, I listen a lot to the show. I'm a 31-year-old mechanic. has a pain issue, but I don't have insurance. Are there cash pay options?
That's a great question.
Of course there are. Of course they are, and I'll take that. So, insurance companies, and this is my thought, for all doctors, forget about us, just any physician, the insurance industry has essentially hijacked our product in a way. They don't have a product. United doesn't have a product. Blue Cross doesn't have a product. None of them have products. We provide the service. So they may say they take our services and create a product out of our services, but it's our service. United doesn't replace your knee. Blue Cross doesn't do a heart transplant. It's our services, physicians.
Do you think someday that we'll work for the insurance company?
Man, that's another good question.
It is, isn't that? I mean,
because
right now a lot of doctors work for hospitals.
So that's come up before in the joint replacement world. I've heard that whisper where, what if you just had like dealerships, Ford and Chevy? What if you had Stryker places and Zimmer places, and the doctors there were just employees of the implant companies that were technicians that put in your knee replacements?
I've heard that. But I'm not asking whether we're going to work for J&J. I'm asking, do you see a time? And I do want to get back to that question
because we got to answer that. Yeah.
Do you see a time when doctors aren't just working for the hospitals? Perhaps the hospitals are owned by United Healthcare. So this is a United Healthcare facility, and you can come here and everything's covered.
I think that's a horrible.
I didn't say it was a good idea or a bad idea.
I hope it never happens.
I think that might.
So you have a daughter in med school. Could you imagine? I mean, the precedent that would set. So you go to medical school, you graduate. The 26th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, the 26th grade after you do med school, residency, internship, fellowship. It's the 26th grade. Can you imagine learning how to take care of people, and the day you get out on day one, you have all this knowledge, you've read all these literature, you've done all these studies, and you're then going to be told by some healthcare insurance company how to practice medicine?
Well, they're going to be the healthcare delivery option. I do want to get back to where.
But they're not the option. That's what I want to.
They might be. Let's look down the road. Here's an interesting little side story. This was about 6 months ago, and I think I sent you and Levy and Manning and Ballard a picture of this article. It was on the front page of the Dallas Morning News. A hospital ownership company, HCA, is providing 500 scholarships for students to attend medical school. And in return for this scholarship, when you graduate, you owe them a couple of years. Wow. Think about this. So they being hospitals, are providing money for you to go to medical school. Very much like the military. The military will provide money for you to, but in return you owe them money and you work for or you owe them time and you work for that hospital. How soon before some of these hospital corporations end up having their own medical schools? Where are you going to medical school? Oh, I'm going to Baylor Scott and White Medical School. And in return, you work for Baylor Scott and White. How weird is that?
Wow.
So, look, in order for you to get back to answer that question, back in the olden days, before we had health insurance, doctors used to get paid in cash. They used to get paid in chickens. They used to get paid in chocolate cake. It was a cash business. There was no insurance back in the 50s. And then insurance came around, and insurance became a third party, and they said, oh, wait a second, we'll pay for that. And fast forward to now, people think that that's the only option. It's not the only option. You can go to Dr. Mayer and pay him. Trust me, it is far more reasonable than you can imagine. And that option exists pretty much everywhere in the world.
I think what people have gotten so fearful about, and I'll use my own mother as an example, she is so scared not to have health insurance because she thinks the world will come to an end. And people pay so much money in premiums, and premiums continue to go up and up, that patients that pay that almost have a gut reaction to, oh gosh, why would I ever pay? My insurance should cover this. Like,
Right.
I pay so much money in
Right.
insurance.
Right.
Why is this not covered? And that's the problem. And then, I tell patients that, look, your premiums keep going up, but I can assure you, my reimbursements don't go up, so I don't really know where the money goes. But then when you see the United Healthcare guy have a $65 million package, that's a little,
But yeah, so we're getting into the business of medicine a little prematurely. I wanted to save that for later. But the question is, whoever the texter was, I don't have.
Yeah, can
the
you see
texter from.
physicians' cash?
Absolutely.
Yeah, anytime.
Absolutely. And it's far more reasonable than you think. Here's something else that I want to throw out there for you guys. That's kind of the way it is everywhere else on the planet.
Yeah.
It is that, yes, there is the Canadian system, there's the British system, there's the Swiss system. There's always going to be a safety net for the citizens. But if you would like to go outside of the safety net, you can pay for it yourself. And again, it's far more reasonable than you think. What the example you gave of your mother, and it's the same example that I've used and my parents have used and a lot of my friends have used. Well, if I'm paying $1,800 a month premium, I sure as heck I'm not going to pay an extra $200 to come see you, because I want to get my money back.
Or you better be in my network, or
Right.
this and the other.
I get it. I absolutely get it. I feel the same way. I think insurance should evolve right now to a, gosh, I didn't want to get into this early in the morning. Something catastrophic. Look, if I have a major car accident, if I have a brain tumor, if I have a heart attack where the bills are going to run into the hundreds of thousands, I think that's when insurance kicks in.
Yeah, you want a ceiling. You want to know a financial security that say, hey, for me and my family, we can accept up to X financial
Exactly.
law. And that's what insurance should be. Insurance should not dictate what health care you get, what procedure is allowable by what company or not, what doctor you can see, because they may not be in their network. And we brought this up in old episodes. The doctor may not have a choice to be in your network.
Yep.
And it's not their choice.
But again, for some of the, I'd hate to say minor issues, but for some of the lesser issues that are not catastrophic, I think it's already fallen upon us to pay it ourselves. Because we all have high deductibles, we all have high copays, and nothing kicks in. And heck, I'm embarrassed to say my deductible is $6,000. I mean, that's ridiculously high number. And my premiums are ridiculously high. I do not believe that my health carrier has paid anything on my behalf for the last 10 years. Up to now, it's all been my deductible and my copay, which is great. But I do have that security having insurance, knowing that if I do have a heart attack or a brain tumor or something, hundreds of thousands, that it will kick in and it will protect me. That being said, since I don't use their money, my premiums ought to go down. You would think that my premiums ought to go down.
You would think health would, yeah. I mean, look, if you have bad credit scores, you have a higher interest rate. You have great credit scores, you have a low interest rate. That doesn't really work in medicine very well.
So have we answered the texter's question? Yes, the
yes,
answer
absolutely.
is yes, you can go.
Any doctor you think is the right doctor for you in any specialty across any field, they're the ones that provide the services.
Yep.
You absolutely can do that.
Yep. Now, we have to go on a quick little break, but a little caveat: a lot of practices aren't really used to that anymore. The prompt pay fee, the cash fee, so they're not accustomed to doing it. Hospitals certainly aren't. If you call, I'm just picking on Baylor Scott and White. If you call Baylor Scott and White and said, "Hey, I need an appendectomy. How much does that cost?" You may not get an answer.
It's a total mess.
So you may not get an answer.
You won't. Believe me, because I've had friends of mine who work at some big hospital systems who've run into this and said, "Hey, you're in an ambulatory surgery center. You guys can control your costs. Can you do this patient cash pay? Because my hospital fees are through the roof.
Yeah.
They can't give them a straight answer." It's a lot more reasonable.
All right, quick little break. 855-787-1033. Two lines are open, and Saad is more than willing to answer the phone. 21,000 is the text machine number. 21000. Start off with the letters ESPN. Gosh, Are people turning off? Because we went from so many listeners, now the number's going down. What is wrong with you?
I don't know. It's the production. Quality of production.
Inside Sports Medicine. Also live on Facebook. Go to our Inside Sports Medicine page and watch us. Sorial Mayer coming right back.
I still have no idea how this sound is working.
Yeah. We know all about them, Dave.
I
Just talk to us.
I just operated well.
Are they good? I mean, I know nothing. I know my
Cosine, this is also recorded.
but I don't.
Yeah, you have to be careful because we're all live.
This is live.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very familiar with those. That
Great
group.
folks.
Yep. You're just being politically correct.
Great folks. No, they are good. They're good.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But yeah, look, it's another model. It's another model where you pay a monthly fee, and you can go to the primary care doc 24/7 or either reach them.
I think
that's a concierge model.
I think it's a great model.
Look,
Instead of paying an insurance company for potential need of care, pay the doctor for actual care and constant monitoring.
I absolutely believe that model is going to proliferate in the next decade, which is, heck, we talked about having that kind of model with Texas Sports Medicine, where for your sports medicine needs, you can contract with us for a nominal amount and be able to see us or talk to us 24/7, 365. We've talked about that for several years now. But that's essentially what the Diamond Physician model is, except they do it on a primary care level. We're probably going to do it on a sports medicine level. But I think that's where it's going to go. The problem is, this is what I said on the air. The problem is, if my deductible is so high and my premium is so high, why am I paying extra to go see Dr. Mayer? And I'm going to tell you why. Because you can get to see Dr. Mayer or text him on your phone today, right now. You don't have to wait a week to get in. You don't have to wait 3 weeks to get in. For that extra, whatever it is, you can see Mayer now, on a Saturday.
Hey, let me see your other headphones. I want to see, because this sound is crazy.
Good or bad?
Really, I don't know if it's the headphones, this.
Oh, you know what it is? It's the jack.
I'm not in the jack. I'm on a direct feed.
Oh.
And
so what do you want from me?
Well, I got to mess with this thing, this mixer. A different set of headphones. I just want to see if it's different.
Oh, you just want the headphones part.
Well, listen to it. What does that sound like? Is it staticky?
Yeah.
It's staticky, right?
It's pixelated kind of.
Okay, so it's no difference on you then. So I got to figure out how to get the mix right. And it's got to be a sound thing on this.
To the Center for Disc Replacement at Texas Health Center for Diagnostics and Surgery at THCDS.
Admission is free. For more information on classic and new model car registration or for details on the event, just email carshow@pchps.org or visit pchps.org.
Sitting in today with my boy Bo Hopkins over at Zero Res. Bo, this might seem obvious, but what's the biggest reason people call to get their carpets clean?
Believe it or not, the biggest reason that we hear all the time from husbands is their wife is telling them replace the carpet because they are tired of the smell, they're tired of all the stains, and they want their carpet to look good. And
So I just sent ESPN through, so I can send the feed through.
Through what?
That.
Okay.
I just did it. And Renee was like, yep, you just sent it through. What we're going to find out is if I go back to the old way, because the Mevo mic is on, so that thing's picking us up still. But I don't know how it's not getting input through here.
Any other questions coming up? Because we need to work on content.
I'm not sure on this. ESPN. Oh, audio is great. So I guess the audio is good on there, and we're gonna just have to find out if the caller goes through. So the audio is good. So I guess I'm doing something right. It's just grainy. It's just a little pixelated on my end.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's this thing. It's this mixer, and I can't figure.
Wait, the Stars play last night? Has anybody responded as to where Azerbaijan is?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, which button do you push to Hey, Kareem.
Hold on. Getting 4 audio ads now. Okay,
Four audio ads.
hopefully I changed it now.
How do you push the refresh? Which button is refresh?
Hey, it looks pretty good.
It does? You want to X out?
Where's your? Okay, there we go. I don't know how the live thing is. Oh, it should
We're
be
back.
here. There we go. Oh no, I put you live. Welcome back to Inside Sports Medicine. Dr. Mayer here and Dr. Soria. We're futzing around with some of the audio, and we got this all on Facebook Live now, so we've been messing with that. Hopefully the audio feed for those watching, that's coming through nice, and send us a text. Let me know if it's set up right, if the audio's coming in nice, and we'll find out if the callers come through as well. But
yes, I'm futzing. I'm futzing. I don't know how to make this work. I don't like InstaFace, and I don't get it, and I don't know how to refresh it. But a lot of you are watching. A lot of you are watching. A lot of you are listening as well. Look, I don't want this to be a distraction for the remainder of you guys who may be listening while you're out on a jog on this gorgeous, gorgeous Saturday morning. We have lots to get to today on Inside Sports Medicine. Sorial and Mayer here. Saad's on the other side of the glass. 855-787-1033. So, Blumenthal is in Sicily. Last week he was in Toronto. The week before he was in Australia. What an international kind of guy. He may be listening. Who knows? He may be listening. Okay, am I the only one that thinks that this NFL draft is, and the telecast and the feed on a major network is a bit of an overkill? Am I the only one that thinks that? It's amazing to me.
big production.
It's a huge production, and folks are watching apparently. So the ratings are kind of almost like a game.
Well, it's the behind the scenes of the NFL. I mean, now they've taken it to the next level, and the stories of the guys and the behind the scene interviews and doing all that, which people love. I mean, it kind of, these guys run around on the field with helmets on. Sometimes you don't know them.
You don't know. You don't know the faces. Hey, Saad, you're a sports reporter, so you cover all this stuff. Is the NFL draft after the first round, maybe even the second round, anything more than just a crapshoot? You're just guessing. Do you remember back in the old days, there's something they called the Heisman curse? Okay. The Heisman curse was, if you are the best college athlete and you win the Heisman, you don't necessarily become a good NFL player, and a lot of those guys end up being busts. If that's what happens with the best player in college sports, what happens to the 250th player in college sports. And then you get stories like the Tom Brady, who was, what, 6th round pick? And look at where he is now. My opinion, and having gone through 22 NBA combines and NBA drafts, et cetera, and I'm just looking at it as a distant observer. It's kind of a crapshoot.
Oh,
It's kind of a crap.
Yeah, you rely on the scouts, you rely on game tape, I mean, everything, medical. I mean, you try and formulate the best value, or how do you rank that asset? Unfortunately, that's what they look at these players as, assets.
So yesterday, between cases, we always have it. We have a TV in the lounge, and the TV is, at least when I'm around, is always on ESPN. And yesterday, all the morning talk shows were just blasting the Giants for who they took for the number 6 pick, quarterback from Duke. Oh, he's just good. You know, the tape doesn't show that he's great, and I certainly wouldn't have wasted a 6. I mean, they were ragging on this young man who's what, 19, 20 years old? Okay, still. Did you see what I saw? Have you read everything that? How can they waste their 6th pick? I saw it from the young man's eyes, and I felt terrible for him. He was being slammed by every commentator in New York, and the Giants were being slammed. Look, time will tell. Time will tell. Just give him a shot. Yeah, so let's go full circle. I am flabbergasted by the attention the NFL draft is getting. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm flabbergasted that this is now on prime time on a major network. It's carried on ABC, ESPN, I mean, and simulcast on this, and NFL Network. I'm flabbergasted by the spectacle that it has become, and for old fogies like me, it's distancing me from the NFL. I mean, it's kind of strange for me to watch this, and I'm thinking, what's the fuss?
Yeah, so a great question came in with, talking about the draft, all the injury reports, all the injury reports on all the players, and how important sports medicine or really just medicine, because a lot of these players have medical issues, not just orthopedic sports medicine. Heart issues that come up and things that get picked up that affect the draft status on these players, and it's in the mainstream now. It's wide open. It's discussed. How much draft stock should a player's value fall based on a cardiac issue, based on the kid that got the ACL and then got drafted, and they said don't even worry about that. These things are on the table now for every one of these draft picks to get value for these players.
And again, I feel sorry for the young men that are going through this. I think they kind of treated like cattle. Unless you're the top 10 picks. Okay, who do they call the last person in the draft? What is that person called?
Yeah,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Exactly.
I wonder how many of those guys actually make a roster. And look, more power to the NFL, because from a branding standpoint, yes, they're the 800-pound gorilla. But if you look at this from a player's perspective and the things they have to go through and the risk that they take, wow. Speaking of, the draft. a young man who is fresh off of an ACL reconstruction. ACL reconstruction done in February.
Yeah, just mentioning that.
Got drafted.
Yeah. I think in the first round.
Yeah.
How much they just minimize now ACL injury.
It is amazing to me. It is amazing to me. All right, so 855-787-1033. Your sports medicine questions are welcome. You can watch us live on Facebook if you have the Facebook app, or if you want to watch it on your computer. 21,000 is the text machine number. That's 21000. Start off with those 4 letters, ESPN. Every show we will highlight a certain sports medicine topic. We're going to discuss that topic so that it can go to our podcast. And in the future, if you want to know about ACL injuries, or if you want to know about tennis elbow, et cetera, you'll be able to go right to our podcast, download that segment, and listen and learn. There are some limitations when we do radio. There are limitations when we do radio because we don't have the visual that go along with it. But that being said, we do our best to make sure that we get the concepts across. And the topic we're going to discuss today, and it probably is going to be in the next segment. You want to talk about tennis elbow?
Yeah, I saw a run of them this week. I don't know why. I just saw so many more. Everything from the beginning of someone with pain to second opinions to operating on these. And so tennis elbow, we'll talk about that probably the next segment.
And
also,
by the way,
the medical term is lateral epicondylitis, but commonly known as tennis elbow. So it's on the outside of your elbow, kind of the thumb side of your elbow, and we'll go into that and talk about some of the basics, some of the basic symptoms, the things that kind of cause it, what treatment options are out there, what are the surgical options, what happens after surgery if you need it, etc.
By the way, the vast majority of tennis elbow is not from tennis. All right. It's not from tennis.
Yeah.
I want to go to the phones. I want to go to Ray. Do you have the mouse?
It's right here.
Well, I guess that means yes, you do.
I don't know.
By the way, you unplugged my screen.
There's another mouse.
No, I only see one mouse. The other mouse is not.
Look, for those on Facebook, let us know if you can hear Ray, because I just want to know that the feed for Ray's question comes through Facebook, so let us know.
Hey, good morning, Ray. You're on Inside Sports Medicine. What you got for us?
Wait. 1,100 pounds? Oh. Okay.
Was there an incident? Was there one lift or one pass or one handoff where you said ouch?
Yeah, the deadlift.
Okay. Yeah. How long ago was this?
So knowing that mechanism and assuming you had zero pain, wasn't an issue prior to this, and you try and lift 300 pounds to lift up, obviously this sounds like it's coming from the area of the shoulder. And so when you hear someone say, I was fine and I had something acutely happen, now I can't lift, You worry about a few things in the shoulder. You worry about the rotator cuff. You worry about a deltoid strain, which is that muscle on the side of your shoulder. You worry about all those things. Normally, you would feel something at the time, and maybe you did. Maybe you felt something and kind of neglected it and didn't do a lot of overhead activities. And initially, in those few days, may have not noticed it, but progressively got worse. And that's kind of a common story you'll hear with a shoulder issue. A nerve issue or something, you got to tell me a little bit more about the symptoms. Are you getting radiating pain down the arm? Are you getting weakness in other muscle groups, etc.?
This is easy, Ray.
Yeah.
This is easy, and I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. Differential diagnosis on my top 10 list, 9 of those involve the rotator cuff. Okay, the rotator cuff is a group of muscles that hold the ball in place, and they are very, very susceptible to weightlifting injuries. I suspect if you've been a trainer for years, your rotator cuff may have some mileage on it. And when it has mileage on it, sometimes it does not take much for it to tear. If it is an extensive enough tear, then you lose function. And that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing I can't lift my arm up beyond blank. That being said, you need to get checked out to determine if you have a rotator cuff tear. Could it be something neurologic? Yes, that's probably number 10 on the list.
Yeah.
Could it be something like a deltoid strain? That's probably number 11 on the list.
Yeah.
But 1 through 9, when I hear loss of function in someone who's been athletic their whole life, I've got to go with the rotator cuff.
Yeah, and I got a ton of patients, Ray, that will just come to me and just say, look, I just have weakness. There's certain things I do I just have weakness with. It doesn't hurt, Doc. I'm still working out. I'm still doing bis, tries. I'm doing my pull exercises, my lat pulls, all that. They don't have trouble with those. But, Doc, I can't go shoulder press. I can't do bench. I can't do my lateral raises. They got weakness. And you can just do a real quick history and physical exam and know that. You almost don't even need imaging sometimes.
Yeah.
And even if I need imaging, I ultrasound a lot in clinic. It's a real-time, 3D interpretation of the shoulder immediately in clinic, right there at point of care, where I can evaluate the whole rotator cuff and see it right then and there, and already kind of have a good diagnosis.
In all fairness, though, Dr. Mayer, you're darn good at ultrasound. Most doctors are not.
Yeah.
Most doctors are not.
Well,
so what you see with an ultrasound, most docs can't see. Here's what you can expect, Ray. First of all, you need to go see an orthopedist, preferably a sports guy, perhaps even a shoulder guy who that's all they do. And you can expect a good exam. I can probably pick this up on exam, but most of the time we're going to get an x-ray, see if you've got arthritis or bone spurs, et cetera, et cetera. But an MRI is going to be part of the diagnostic workup now in 2019. Once we know exactly where it's torn, what the extent of the damage is, then we can come up with a treatment plan. Number 1 through 9, if you've lost function and it's been 3 weeks and it's not back, you probably have a rotator cuff tear. Go get it checked out.
Yeah, and Ray, we gave last show, which will be on the podcast, on iTunes, eventually on Spotify, I gave about a 10-minute talk on rotator cuffs. What happens if you have a partial tear, a full thickness tear? What's the latest literature? What's the brand new on that? What in 2019 is the update on rotator cuff issues? And so that's a great thing to kind of listen to, that goes through all the statistics, all the latest studies, the research, regardless of what some doc on a corner says, because there's a lot of folks that get pressured into shoulder surgery that sometimes is unnecessary.
Well, again, if it's loss of function, that may be
Yeah,
the best
well, it
option.
depends.
All right, got a quick little break. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening. All right, Carlos, you're going to be first up when we come back after this break. Inside Sports Medicine, 855-787-1033. 21,000 is the text machine number. Tell us who you are. Well, you don't have to tell us who you are. How old you are, where you're listening from, what you do for a living. We love to have those demographics. 21,000-21000. Start off with the letters ESPN. Phones are lighting up. People are waking up. Coming right back. That was a great call.
It's a little, the feed is so on my end, but honestly, if I'm the only one that has bad audio, but everybody else is good, then you know what? I'm cool with that. He said can't hear the caller.
Yeah,
So
I knew that was going to be a problem.
But how? Because this is the feed. Now, there's another way of doing it.
Yeah, the caller's coming through that. Why don't you see if you can plug in through the headphone jack? Because that way you get us and the caller.
But if I plug in from the headphone jack, I gotta get something different. I gotta buy a different adapter. Because this XLR feed is a different feed. Because
It doesn't have a plug-in?
well, I have to get an adapter. You see this? I have to have an adapter that takes.
Oh, I see.
It takes the phone.
I see.
It takes this. That's a splitter that comes to here. It's possible.
I see. Yeah.
I gotta find it. That may work.
Yeah. So when we had the film crew here, they plugged into the headphone jack. That's how they got the.
But why did
callers.
they use this? They did both.
We had the same issue before, but I don't know what the solution was.
Well, the solution is plug into this. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I could return this or just get another one. I don't know.
What are all the switches on the back of it?
On how to send a feed through.
What does a green piece of paper say?
It's the studio feed, studio audio. So,
Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's something he has to turn on because it turns on the mics. I have a quick question. On the direct studio feed, they can hear us, but they can't hear the caller. Is there a way to fix that?
I don't think so, because it's also the same way that, like, if you didn't have the headphone jack, you wouldn't be able to hear the caller either. So, like, I think it's something like within the system or something, because, like, yeah.
Same problem we had before.
but it's sending it out because I'm hearing the caller through this
solution
feed.
to that is that when the caller is talking, you would both have to turn your mics off. Then the call would come across in the studio feed if you both like turned your mics off while the caller was talking, and then to answer his question or his or her question, turn
So
back on.
when you say turn the mic off, like push the mute button?
No, like turn the red light off.
Yeah, there's.
Like there, like you see it where there's those two rectangular things.
Oh yeah.
Like right now,
This
your
thing.
mic and then off.
Okay.
So if you do that, like hit the bottom off.
Let's experiment with that on the next. I'll experiment with that on the next call and see. So the next call, both of us turn off our mics. That's this button. Yep. It's one of those two. Yep.
Just hit the bottom
Just
one?
hit the bottom one. When the red light is on, we'll hit the bottom one, and then we'll hear the caller on that feed, hopefully.
Alright, see what happens.
We'll practice that. So I'm going to take Carlos when we first come back. Tell him to hang on. Tell him he's first caller. Oh, phones are ringing.
Yeah, I can try. Look, there is an audio.
Dude, there's a score.
I can switch it.
I'm good with it. Look, if that's all it takes, we can push the button. Push the button. Let's just see if it works.
Upgrade to smart security like your boy and literally control your whole home from your phone. Check out their 5-star reviews, and they're local. Don't pay more to protect your home. Get more with DFW Security. Call DFW Security at 214-305-9922.
It's going to be a busy day, let me tell you, because it's pretty warm. People are out. We're going to have. Oh, thank you. We're going to have. So we've got. I mean, phone lines are lit up already, and it's not even the second hour.
This is Steve, sales manager for ESPN 103.3 FM.
I'm going to be in the office almost all day today.
Dictating?
No, I'm caught up dictating. I did that yesterday.
If you've got the drive, work well
I'm working on my talk.
Excel faster than your competition.
Yeah, I gotta finish. I got
and are a
2 talks to
self-starter
do.
with successful sales track
I gotta
record,
finish those
give us a
up.
call.
Yours are a little easier than mine.
Aggressive sales professionals who enjoy meeting their prospects.
Yeah, but it's not that
face-to-face
long. You're what,
negotiations.
15 minutes?
This is an
20,
outside sales
15?
role where face-to-face
I'm
sales
covering a
can
30-year
make a lot of
history in
money.
Yeah,
15 minutes.
but it's 20
Bottom line
slides.
is if you are
Can't do
smart
more
at
than that, probably
prospecting,
20,
you
25
get
slides.
face-to-face
Appreciate that.
appointments and
That's
close
usually
business.
what people take about a
Email
minute
me your
slide.
resume today at
How many slides you gonna put in there?
steve.holm@cumulus.com. That's Steve.
Can I put slides side by side? How do I do that?
Cumulus.com.
Slide side by side.
Cumulus is an equal opportunity
yeah,
On half of the
employer and a
screen,
drug-free
this,
workplace.
another half a picture.
Yes.
How do I do
Do I
that?
need to do your? Do you want me to do
I
your
don't need
editing?
you to do my talk.
Your editing. Do I need to do your
Editing, maybe. After it's all done,
Yeah,
I'll have
put
you
your talk
edit.
together and I'll make it look good.
Okay.
Oh gosh. This is good.
Continuing with our Back to the Future. Jimi Hendrix. You have any idea who that is?
Yes, I know Jimi Hendrix.
Saad? Actually, that was before my time, Jimi Hendrix. Phones are all lit up. People are loving the Facebook Live thing. Yeah, we're experimenting. I'm not sure how it's all going to work. I'm sure there's going to be some fine-tuning involved. But
I bet people are like, you hate to use car wrecks as an example, but they're like, man, I wonder if this is a car wreck and I'm just going to watch these two guys. I'm going to watch these two docs.
dude, this is episode 695. We've been doing this for 18 I've been doing this for 18
No,
years.
but the behind the scenes people don't get.
Well, I will tell you that I'm much more careful what I say during the break
breaks.
now.
Well, Blumenthal's not here. Wait till Blumenthal comes.
Thank God for that. He drops these bombs on us out of nowhere. Carlos from Fort Worth. Good morning, Carlos. Bye.
Calling in the show. Hey, quick update. I called y'all about 4 months ago about a kid of mine that where I was coaching him for track and he messed his back up and he was thinking that his mom was thinking he had messed it up during football and you told us it was normal and it takes about 3 or 4 months. He was cleared last week, so he's ready to start back working out again.
Yeah, we talked about I remember the voice.
I don't know what you called it. It's something with a slip disc in his back. And you said it was from growth and it's normal and freshman. So
Pars defect.
say it again.
I think we called it a Pars defect. But yeah, I remember the call. Yeah.
And then to give you an update, when you was asking earlier about how many Mr. Irrelevants actually make a team, Justin Jackson last year actually started for the San Diego Chargers last year for Notre Dame. He was the Mr. Irrelevant, and I think he'll end up being the starter this year. So I'm giving you a heads up for your fantasy football season.
I love it. Well, I love it on multiple reasons. Number one, I'm offended by the term Mr. Irrelevant. Those guys should have a shot like everybody else. I actually saw a story the other day on an undrafted young man who became a starter on his NFL team.
Well, there's a lot of undrafted free agents that make it. I mean,
So it goes back to my point. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
That's right. Tony Romo was
To
undrafted.
call the last guy drafted Mr. Irrelevant, then what do you call every other free agent guy that gets picked up?
Wait, say that again?
As well, and he ended up starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Yeah.
that's how it happened.
Which goes back to my point that the NFL draft is nothing more than a crapshoot. And I'm embarrassed for those 45 million people that are wasting hours watching it. All right, thanks, Carlos. All right, the phones are going crazy. 855-787-1033. We got to do that segment on tennis elbow that we talked about.
And we'll do it because I have some other text questions that came in about elbows, about bursitis in the elbow, etc. So I'll try and answer that question when we do the tennis elbow segment, and we'll probably do it at maybe the 8 o'clock hour.
You can say that if you want to, but if the phones are going crazy, we're going to take phones first.
Well, we're going to get there. Okay.
We will get there at some point. We will, I promise. All right, let's go to Dan. Dan from Fort Worth. Good morning. What's up?
For you all.
Doing good.
Just a quick, hoping that you all can alleviate me from a little bit of stress prior to getting results. My knee went out about 10 days ago, and I had an x-ray with my primary, went and got my MRI last night. I had the knee operated on about 11 years ago. It was a meniscus tear. The doctor said that I'm going to have it done again. I don't recall why. Nothing happened to make this injury come about. I work in a school. I work in schools, so just walking around, and now I can't barely move. But the strange thing is, it'll come and go. Like this morning, I felt great, and then within about a half an hour, 45 minutes, it's tightened back up again, and I'll get shooting pains just as I'm driving here to work right now. So I'm scared that it's more than a meniscus this time, because I don't remember all of these different kinds of pains, if you will.
All right, well, I have a question for you, though, Dan. What is your definition of my knee went out?
The pain in terms of just like my mobility. I should say my mobility went out. Like my office is on the second floor, and I can't go up to the second floor unless I'm holding onto the railing, and I have to almost I can't put that left foot walking straight. I almost have to turn it to the side a little, if you will, because the pressure bothers it.
So was it a one-time episode? You were walking and on step number 4 something happened, or was it gradual in occurrence?
Well, it was actually like for a couple of days it was bothering me, and then I was sitting on my couch with my leg up, and I felt like I had a fly or something on my leg, and I wiggled my leg, and that's when I felt like all kind of pain. So that was like the big episode after the few days, and then from that point forward, it was horrible.
All right, so now let me put your mind at ease a little bit. Your story is, believe it or not, relatively common. I saw a similar situation just a couple of days ago in clinic. Here's what happens if we've had a previous injury or a previous surgery. Whether you get scar tissue, whether you get the development of post-traumatic arthritis, or whether the cartilage just deteriorates, what happens 10, 12, 15 years down the road is you get debris. And that debris could be in the form of a calcium deposit. We call it a bone chip. Or that could be a debris in the form of cartilage. And you can't see that on the x-ray. Hopefully they'll be able to see that on the MRI. But what probably happened for you, and this may go back to that meniscus repair 11 years ago, is that either a piece of the meniscus may have broken loose, or a piece of the developing arthritis may have got caught in the joint, and that wiggling of your knee to get the fly off of your leg, that may very well have caused the debris to get caught in the joint. And your description of there's good days and bad days and good moments and bad moments goes along with that. It goes along with perhaps something floating around. When it's out of place, your knee feels fine. When it's, let me rephrase that. When it's in place, your knee feels fine. When it's out of place, it feels, I can't walk, I can't go up and down stairs, that sort of thing. In that event, first of all, this is common. This is not a surprise. In that event, sometimes you see it on the x-ray, most of the time you can't. Sometimes you'll see it on the MRI, sometimes you can't. But you'll definitely see a donor site. You'll see, oh wait, there's something missing from this spot. The treatment, and again, there's a million disclaimers, it's a radio show. The treatment, if the symptoms are few and far between, sometimes I ride this stuff out. But if it goes a week or 2 weeks and you can't walk and you need to have a crutches or cane or whatever, that may be arthroscopic. That may be, hey, we need to go in there and clean this thing out. You often hear the term, especially in the NFL level, he's so-and-so's having his knee cleaned out after the season's over. Well, and that's why. That's why we do it. You want to add?
Yeah.
Was worried about all the M and A and every other letter in the alphabet that I didn't want to hear about that was going to keep me out of work. So
you're welcome. Are you thinking A as in like ACL? No. This is when you tear your ACL. Look, who knows? You may have torn it 11 years ago, but when you tear your ACL, it is a major traumatic event. I was on my motorcycle. I had to lay it down, and my knee gave out. That is a major traumatic event. It's not I was shaking a fly off my leg and I tore my ACL. Doesn't work that way.
And the one last thing I'll add is, he part of his story 11 years ago had a meniscus trimmed out, and
right.
So, there's a function for the meniscus.
I didn't hear him say trimmed out.
He said he had a meniscus injury 11 years ago.
It could have been repaired. Who knows?
Well, okay.
Was he said he drew like a circle, if you will, and he said he basically took scissors and cut a piece of that circle off where the tear was.
Exactly.
So it was trimmed.
So what I'm trying to explain about that is the meniscus is a shock absorber between your thigh bone and your shin bone. It's there for a reason. Cartilage does not like to feel a lot of pressure, and the meniscus will create a shock absorber for the end of the bone to protect the cartilage. If you get the meniscus trimmed out, even if it's a small portion, the contact pressure between the end of your thigh bone and the top of your shin bone goes up. When that goes up, the cartilage in the area, around the area where the meniscus was trimmed out, the pressures increase and the cartilage can start to break down and you'll start to develop arthritis. And so we know this from way back in the day where they did not understand really what the meniscus function was, and you cut the whole thing out. Well, when the whole meniscus was cut out, people went on to a rapid progression of arthritis very quickly within a year or two, to where on x-rays you would see bone on bone, there was no space. And so there has been a big push in how do we save the meniscus? How do we repair? Now the meniscus cannot always be repaired. There's a blood supply to the meniscus, there's a quality to the meniscus, there's an extent of the injury. So if we can, we do it. If we can't, you have to trim it on and live to fight another day.
Thanks for calling. Look at you, Dr. Mayer, talking about the history of the meniscus.
There you go.
Look at you.
There you go.
All right, Inside Sports Medicine, 855-787-1033. Mark from Fort Worth, you're going to be up next.
I got a history question for you, right?
You want to save that?
Yeah, never mind. We'll move on.
Quick break, coming back.
Broadcasting live from the GMC.
I love to hear you talking about the history.
So what do you call it on X-ray?
What do y'all call what on X-ray?
If a guy gets or a girl, whoever gets a meniscus completely cut out, and then what do you call it on X-ray? It's called Fairbanks. And when they see it squared off on the condyle, the minute someone got a meniscectomy.
Never heard of that.
They got a total meniscectomy.
Never heard of that. I don't like eponyms.
Yeah.
I
don't know what you squared. What do you call it? Squared left.
Medial femoral condyle. The answer is yeah. It is squared off.
Wherever it is.
That's a great point, which is why I'm not sure.
By the way, that develops. That doesn't happen instantaneously.
No, within a few years, but rapid progression.
Jason Garrett's future is on the rise. I mean,
they said the call went
guy that ain't gonna help you this year.
Because we did that.
They can hear the caller.
Because we did that.
I know, but it makes me wonder if I should just switch to the one that floats here. And then just return this thing.
And maybe a better call. I mean, a better quality.
Because maybe I get rid of this and just do a direct plug-in.
Good morning, I'm Saad Yusuf with the Sports Center update. The Dallas Cowboys
I don't know about
first pick of the draft yesterday.
It's something they must have done engineering on their feet.
Hill, defensive tackle out of Central Florida. And then in the third round, they took Connor McGovern, a guard.
So I was reading an article about concussions. This was from last week that I was going to bring up.
In day 3, a couple of fourth rounders, a fifth rounder, and a
Not all high schools are reporting their concussions, but those who have reported it have already reported, which is, I want to say 7% of the schools have reported concussions. 500 concussions last year out of 7% of the high schools.
Closed out the Los Angeles
Do the math.
Clippers behind 50 points.
So we're talking in Texas.
The NBA playoffs
So
roll on
7% is 500 concussions.
So the question becomes, do you truly think it's happening more, or do you think that our recognition is better, and that we're just reporting them now, but they've always been occurring?
Say that. Oh, absolutely, they've always been occurring.
Right? And so, especially over the last
How many
few
times
years,
have we said, oh, he got his bell rung?
well, I can tell you, I've had 3, and I can tell you, of the 3 that I've had, 0 have been reported.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So and so got his bell rung. He stays in the game. He never comes to the sideline.
What was I seeing?
Sports medicine.
God, it must have been a sports science thing. They were looking at brains of animals that collide.
Oh yeah. You were telling me about that. And they did woodpecker.
How they're built different.
They are built different.
How the anatomy is built different. The entire, like where they're designed to do that and have an impact mechanism anatomically built in for that. So the rams have it, the battering, whatever the rams that would hit, the woodpecker, and there was like a third animal. There was another animal that collided a lot.
Orthopedic surgeon and medical director of Texas Sports Medicine.
Billy's watching.
Sports Medicine on 103.3 FM ESPN.
Oh, David.
We're getting some other people. 29 Acres is leading the charge in helping adults with autism.
This summer,
Thanks
from Fort Worth. The closet, better than the closet, isn't it?
Yeah. He does remember that.
Adaptive lake sports like wakeboarding, paddleboarding, and more. Year-round programming then begins in the fall. 29 Acres is asking their community to help fund scholarships by donating $5 per month. That's 1 cup of coffee, people. Donations can be made at 29acres.org/donate. That's 29acres.org.
So we'll take this phone call on concussions, and then we'll do the 10-cell buffer. How's the text work? I mean, are we getting feedback?
Commercial audio is good now.
See y'all at the Social House in Arlington at Champions Park today.
So it's good. Whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to leave it like that.
But we're turning off the mics.
So that works. No, commercial audio. This.
How do they know? Oh, commercial audio, the ads.
Yeah.
Well, but that's not the caller. The caller's a whole different circle.
So that works. That just, you have to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do until we.
But that means that microphone's picking it up.
Yeah. I don't know that part.
So it's confusing the hell out of me because how is that externally picking it up?
Still living with neck or back pain that just won't go away? You can get the relief you need.
When you do that, you're cutting this feed, but that audio's still on. But when you don't cut that feed, it's going through here and it's picking up our feed. Like, I can't figure how that microphone is picking it up. Is it only picking up by, well, it must be picking us up, and it's not picking up anything from this. So then then I don't really have any point to use this. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, yeah. We could always just go off of that.
You could just go off that, and I don't even have to do this.
But we still have to turn this off in order to hear the call.
Unless I then get this hook up, and that's it. I get the adapter from here. Or you turn it off so it externally audio picks up. I don't know.
I want to say, talk to BJ. I want to say that when we had the crew in here, they plugged into the headphones. I want to say that that's what they did. Whoops. Ask BJ.
Sponsored by the Urban Group of Valley Ballman and Associates. Saturday, April 27th from 10 to 3 at Burleson Park on the east side of the SMU campus. Admission is free. For more information on classic and new model car registration or for details on the event, just email carshow@bchps.org or visit bchps.org.
Listen to Dak, not that Dak. Our Dak is Dennis and Kalashaw every afternoon on your way home from 3 to 6 on ESPN Radio 103.3 FM ESPN.
It's time for Inside Sports Medicine on 103.3 FM ESPN with your host, Dr. Tino Sorial, orthopedic surgeon and medical director of Texas Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Group. Get your sports medicine questions ready and call 855-787-1033.
Welcome back to Inside Sports Medicine, live episode 695. We're going to have to plan something for our 700th episode. Live episode. Welcome back to episode 695 on this stunningly gorgeous Saturday morning in Dallas, Texas. Welcome to the show. We are very grateful to have you listening to us. 855-787-1033 is the phone number. A couple of lines are open, sides available. As promised, we are going to go to the phones now, and a little bit later we're going to do our scientific segment. Mark from Fort Worth, good morning.
Soccer coach here in the DFW area, high school.
And Dr. Sorial, we visited just over a year ago about my plan of reducing knee injuries in female soccer players by discouraging long cleats on artificial turf. Anyway, my new objective is this. I wanted to see your thoughts or any relevant research you've seen. What are your thoughts on addressing concussion reduction in girl soccer players via strengthening the neck muscles?
All right, good question, and it's funny you should call because this was a subject matter that I was going to address last Saturday, but I didn't have time to get to it, so I was going to address it this Saturday. And this morning, when I got up at 4:45, for whatever reason, I felt compelled to pick up that article and review it. And it was an article on concussions in soccer with girls. So your timing could not be more appropriate. So the gist of the article in the Dallas Morning News, so this was not a scientific article, but the gist of the article in the Dallas Morning News was that for boys' concussions, of course, football was number one. For girls' concussions, soccer was number one. But I was also surprised that volleyball is on that list. I'm not sure exactly how you get a concussion in volleyball, but it was on that list. But let's get back to soccer for a second. I don't know how to reduce the concussions associated with heading the ball when two girls hit their heads simultaneously. When I took care of Major League Soccer, I spent 5 years doing that. That was the number one way of getting concussions, where two guys went up to head the ball, they hit each other, and it was like two bowling balls colliding. And most of the time, well, sometimes you'll have a laceration, etc., etc. I think that is the same for girls. Probably one of the worst concussions that I saw in a girls' soccer match that I covered was a young lady that hit her head against the goalpost. It was a corner kick. She was going in for the header. She missed everything, and she hit her head on the goalpost. It really was a pretty serious concussion. I don't know that strengthening of the neck muscles is going to prevent the head-head collision. My concern is it might make those collisions even more substantial if the girls are stronger. What the article was insinuating, and I kind of liked it, and Mark, you're going to have a heck of a time getting your girls to wear those helmets, but those soft helmets, a couple of guys in the European leagues wear them, but that may be a better option. But as vain as soccer players are, both males and females, it would be awfully difficult to get them to wear that helmet. But I do think that soft helmet may be an answer.
Mark, I'll take this. Dr. Mayer here.
Wait a second. What do you mean you'll take this? What have I been doing?
I got the opposite.
Okay, there you go.
I'm gonna agree with Mark, because there have been studies for neck strengthening, because there have been some studies that have come out saying that is possibly one of the leading contributors. Because women's soccer, nobody does any neck strengthening. So your SCM, your traps, all your paraspinal muscles, they don't strengthen them at all. So they'll get a more of a, what we call contra coup injury, and the neck will whiplash a little more violently with these. And if they don't have great neck stability to hold that and not let their head violently snap back and forth, there has been some thoughts with that. I think if you're not going to get them wearing a helmet or some type of cushioning, that is probably the only thing you can add to them, and I would do that.
I'm going to tell you this, because I'm going to take the counter argument to you.
That's what we need to do.
The counter flag on the play.
Is this like Max and Stephen A?
I can't stand those guys. Absolutely can't stand those guys.
We're gonna yell at each other.
Let's go back. I do think that the neck strengthening is important, and there's no harm in that. Especially more important the younger the athlete. I get that 100%, and I know exactly what article you're talking about. However, from a practical standpoint, I don't know what percentage of concussions are just from heading the ball versus the same type of concussion from head-to-head contact. I'm going to say that perhaps the neck strengthening might minimize. Look, there's no harm in it. There's no harm in it. But I think that is a small fraction of the concussions that we see. What are your thoughts, Mark?
No, but to answer Mark's question, I would encourage him, because these are the studies that we need pushing forward to make sports safer for all our kids.
Yeah, but you can't take it out of context. This was a study on 12-year-olds.
No, but Mark's asking, is that worth his hypothesis is, if we increase neck strengthening, does that decrease our incidence of concussions? And I'd say go for it. Get neck machines, pre and post test neck strength on all your players. See if you get an increase in neck strength. There's plenty of machines that will increase that are neck strengthening machines. Follow them, and then follow the incidence of concussions on your team versus other teams that are matched to patient age, patient sex, patient how many games they play, level, activity, all that, because that's good information that we need to have answers to.
And I've been involved in the game collegiately, professionally now as a coach, is that I would speculate that the majority of these instances derive not from the head-to-head contact, but just from either the singular traumatic event or the cumulative nature of it going on. And so that's sort of the approach I was taking, was that we could, prevent that, the girls heading the high punted ball, the long goal kick, etc., by working to strengthen those neck muscles.
I agree with you 100%. One of the things that we don't know what we don't know when it comes to concussions. There is so much left to be answered on the concussion front. We don't know what the long-term effects are from repeated headings of the ball, especially if you're a 12-year-old. We don't know that. My gut, and I'm with you on this, Mark, my gut is that there is probably a cumulative effect down the road that we can impact, no pun intended, by strengthening the neck muscles and perhaps reduce that cumulative effect 20, 30 years down the road. But right now, as we sit here today, and I need you to tell me, because maybe I missed this, the vast majority of the concussions that I saw on the soccer field were head-to-head, not someone heading the long ball into the net and then falling down in a heap.
Exactly, and the thing is, you were working with MLS, where the level of the physicality and the aggression of the players is going to be certainly a little higher than that of high school girls. So absolutely, but based on what I've seen, just the concussions in my coaching career, it's been that singular event and not necessarily the rarer head-to-head contact.
Well, I agree with you, and I'll have to say, I'll have to defer to you, because you probably covered many more high school girls soccer matches than I have. Not that I have not, but nowhere near as many as you have. Mark, I appreciate the discussion point. This is very, very valuable, and I also appreciate the fact that you're trying to make an impact, and I love that. More power to you. All right, let's go to, you want to go to Josh now or go to break first? Let's go to Josh now. He's nodding his head. All right, Josh, good morning. You're on Inside Sports Medicine.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. I apologize if I mispronounced this next word. Just want to get your thoughts on using hyaluronic acid injections into the shoulder to prevent, deterioration of the joint and put off shoulder replacement.
Josh, I'll take this. Dr. Mayer here. I do a lot of shoulder replacements and see how shoulders evolve. Every spectrum.
I don't do any shoulders.
From the younger kids to the older kids. So hyaluronic acid, I guess, to explain that to people, because you've heard this. You've heard this either as the rooster comb or the joint lubricant stuff. It's
the gel.
The gel. However people want to talk about it. Hyaluronic acid is a naturally occurring fluid you have in your joint. As arthritis develops, the wear and tear of cartilage, really at any joint, hyaluronic acid levels decrease. As they decrease, this is why you have about, there's probably 15 products on the market. Every company will tell you theirs is the best. for this, and it's a supplementation of a joint lubricant. And so they're made differently. There's different ways, whether they make them from rooster comb or bacterial based, or however, there are different ways or how they're made. The thought with them is, does that increase not only just the joint lubrication, does it decrease pain, improve function? So this has been studied most extensively in the knee, and that's really where the vast majority of this literature comes from, and it's up and down. And years ago, and some insurance companies, some still cover it, some don't, saying that, look, depending on the extent of the arthritis, and this is literature from the knee, that some insurances won't cover it. It's best in mild, no more than moderate arthritis. Now, for shoulder, the majority of these, I believe, if you're getting them for the shoulder, is off-label.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's FDA approved.
These are not FDA approved, but that doesn't mean a physician can't use it in the shoulder for you, but the company cannot advertise or sell it for it. But it's been done. A lot of folks use it. It's an option. It's another option. It's just another tool in the tool bag that we have. And again, this is why, I think, as our specialty as an orthopedic surgeon, we don't just do surgery on every patient that walks in the door. So I have I got a wrench, I got a Phillips head, I got every tool in the tool bag to offer patients, from non-surgical care to surgical care, and all in between. So you have options, and this is just one more option. The literature is all over the place on this. There's probably as many articles that support it and as many that'll try and say it's not worth it. But again, if you're the shoulder that tries it and it's great for you, then you'll love it, and the literature doesn't really matter to you. I think it depends on the extent of your arthritis, the other things that you've tried, what your expectations, what your goals are. Then that becomes a discussion of whether or not this may or may not be a good option for you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Alrighty. All right, quick little break. Inside Sports Medicine, 855-787-1033. Text machine number 21,000. Start off with the 4 letters ESPN. We're going to check those texts during the break because it's been a bit busy over here. Don't forget to watch us on Facebook Live. Today is the inaugural.
Well, not inaugural. We're coming back with it.
We're coming back. Back to the future.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Inside Sports Medicine. We'll eventually have this out on YouTube channels, Spotify, iTunes. So it'll be the same information, but from any platform you want to take it off of.
All right, quick little break. Suriel Mayer coming right back.
ESPN Radio 103.3 FM was at the
I think that may be working well. That turning on and off. We just have to get in the habit of it.
Yeah, it's like the problem is going to be when I'm in all 4 of them.
I know. All right, on 3.
So, I don't know. I'm going to call BJ. Worst case scenario, I'll just return this one and then get this one, because I have an option.
So the one I'm looking at here, maybe you're doing that. It's not going to us anymore. It's just that live shot the whole time.
Watch, I can do this. Give it a second. Wonder what the delay is. It's about to go right to you.
Recognized physicians at the Center for Disc Replacement, Dr. Blumenthal, Dr. Geyer, and Dr. Ziegler have helped thousands of people from all over the world with this motion-preserving procedure. Do it today.
There you go. 15 seconds.
By going
there you go.
to the Center for Disc
But prior to that, it was just that one.
I can change it wherever I want.
But I thought you said it went to our voice.
It can, but I locked it in.
Okay.
When you were a kid
So I told it to stop doing auto tracking. So if it's auto tracking, that thing has to be picking up the audio.
If you're hurt by a drunk driving crash, just go to the Mothers.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving. MAD for short.
Mothers who know what to do.
Call 877-MAD-HELP, and that's what you get.
Pick an AC/DC song.
Learn more about how we help victims of drunk driving next time you visit.
Mothers always love a visit.
At mad.org.
Shit, we only have 7 people watching. That's ridiculous. That's insult. This is why I quit paying $1,000.
Oh, we
had 100 people watch.
Yeah, but
how do we?
You just started your Inside Sports Medicine Facebook thing. I mean, it'll take time, maybe, because it's only.
So plug it. Tell people how to watch it.
Yeah, but this is easy because this can be recorded. This
is really easy. For what I spent on one episode, we've got the whole thing forever and ever and ever. So I get it. But now we have to push people towards it.
Bottom line is, if you are smart at prospecting, can get face-to-face appointments and close business, email me your resume today at steve.home@cumulus.
You know, the Rockets flew out a few days ago already because they're like, well, the series is going to end. We know it'll be done, so we're just already going to go to the Bay Area. So they flew, and they literally, I think, said something like, no disrespect to the LA Clippers.
That's very disrespectful.
Yeah, they win.
That's disrespect.
They didn't
say that on the air.
They didn't want to get caught up in travel problems and being late and having to play in Golden State and having to go on a shorter notice.
Talk about that.
Well, you can talk about that. What would the Mavs do if you were in the playoff? Would you fly early for travel and you know?
Actually, this is a great topic.
Travel medicine. How does travel medicine and flights and going back and forth, is there any effect on performance?
Absolutely. There's all kinds of studies on this. But one of the beauties of being in the Midwest is that we actually have an advantage over all other teams.
Yeah.
East and West Coast teams have a huge disadvantage.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
We're right in the middle. So a 2-hour flight, 2.5-hour flight to the West Coast.
What's worse, guys that have to go from San Francisco to play in Miami, or guys that live in Miami that have to play in San Francisco?
West, East. That's worse.
West, East. So if you're used to
they've actually done NFL games, studies on NFL. The visiting team from the West has a much poorer record than the visiting team from the East.
So if it's 5 o'clock in San Francisco, it would be what, 3 hours ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8, right? So it'd be 8 o'clock in Miami. So if you play an 8 o'clock game in Miami, you feel like it should be 5 p.m.
Yeah, you're still awake. But an early game, a noon game, so it feels like it's 9 in the morning.
Early morning. So does it change by sport? Because the NFL guys are earlier in the day.
They did a very similar study on the NBA, and yes, absolutely. But NBA plays at night, so that wasn't so much.
So you think the NBA guys would be better going west to east?
NBA guys are better in
because
no, it's never
with the east to west.
They're all. Let's save this.
Yeah, but the east to west, if you think it's like 9 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock you're ready to go to bed, but you're in San Francisco, it's like 7, and you better be wide awake and playing.
So they did a study on NBA athletes and their sleep cycles. Dude, those guys don't go to sleep until 3 or 4 in the morning. It was amazing. So they're late night. Their peak time is from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. And it's almost like night shift workers. NFL players are a whole different ballgame, but NBA players are like that. They have an advantage because they have 82 games, so they travel all the time. NFL, they only travel 8 games, so they don't get accustomed to the different clocks. If you are a nighttime peak and you're asked to play, you're a Golden State Warriors, and you're asked to play a noon game in New York, invariably you're going to lose that.
But that's not that common. The early morning and
during the playoffs, it sure does. They have noon games. They have noon games in the playoffs, but during the regular season, they don't.
It's all night. So I would think it'd be East Coast to West is worse than the West to the East guys.
What are you thinking?
Because the guys that have to go East Coast to West Coast, those guys, if they play a 7:30 game in Golden State and you're in Miami Heat, yeah, 7:30 p.m. a night game. To you, that's 10:30 at night when you're tipping off. Huh? Like it's late at night. Like,
there was not, and I don't remember this.
Versus the guys that go from Golden State to Miami, if it's a 7:30 tip in Miami, to you it feels like it's 4:30 in the afternoon.
If it's and they're awake by then. It's that when your body when your body thinks that it's morning, that's when you have a problem. And that's more of a problem when you're playing an early game on the East Coast. We're back.
I'm still sticking with it's worse in the night if you're going east to west. It's worse in the morning if you're going west to east.
There's data.
Interesting.
There is no worse.
Now that the playoffs are coming up, maybe we'll have to tell Saj. There's got to.
And not as a treatment. His comments
About
are
to
not
give
a
up on the
substitute
headphones.
for a visit with your doctor. And now, Dr. Tio Sorial.
I'm not a fan of the Houston Rockets
Why are you telling me that?
because I know you're a fan of the Houston
And
Rockets.
Dr. Ballard, and look, there's a lot of people that are fans of Rockets.
I'm not one of them. So in Texas, and I'm going back to my 22 years in the NBA, you have the Mavericks, the Spurs, and the Rockets. And of course, Mavericks are way number one on my list. I have tremendous respect for the Spurs as an organization, and I just don't like the Rockets. And after you told me what you told me during the break, I don't even like them more. Is that such a thing? I don't even like them more. You said that Houston went to Golden State a couple of days ago. They traveled to Golden State. No disrespect to the Clippers. Say what you said.
Well, to all clarification, they traveled to the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
oh, okay. That clarifies it.
I don't know where they're staying. If they're staying between LA and Oakland, if they're staying.
But they traveled to the Bay Area
before the series ended.
And then, of course, you say, no disrespect. It is all about disrespect.
That's what they wanted to be in California, but they traveled to the Bay Area.
Yeah, you could have traveled to LA, but of course they didn't. No disrespect. I don't even like them more.
Okay, the point of the story was travel medicine, and how does that impact performance and play? Now that you got the NBA playoffs, and now you're going to have teams traveling West Coast, East Coast kind of things, and so that's what we talked about over the break.
That's a big deal, and that has been studied. It has been studied extensively, and I'm going to kind of review this. I'm digging into the back of my brain and asking a couple of neurons to fire this morning. But back in 2006, when the Mavericks were playing in the championship against the Miami Heat, Avery Johnson asked me to look into the science of travel medicine and sleep medicine. So I consulted with the man who wrote the book, who happened to be at UT Southwestern. I actually went down to his office and we visited a couple of times. And the take-home message is all the sleep studies were done on airline pilots because of the extensive travel and the east to west, and they wanted these guys to be, sharp and wide awake when they're behind the plane. And so there's a lot of work that has gone into that. The NFL's done some work as well. The NBA's done some work as well. And the conclusions are, we in Dallas have an advantage because we're in the Midwest. It's 2 hours going this way, it's 2 hours going that way. The East Coast teams and the West Coast teams are at a major disadvantage, just simply because they have to travel and they have to shift their clocks. NBA players are night owls. NBA players, don't hold me to this, but their peak performance was 11, 12 o'clock at night, that kind of thing. And after a game, the guys are so revved up. Most of our games are evening games. The guys are so revved up. They go out, they go to dinner. They don't hit the sack till 3 or 4 in the morning. So their peak performance times were like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m., that kind of thing. That's different for NFL players. NFL players, well, while they may stay up all night, I don't know that they do that on a regular basis. In the NBA, you've got 82 games. You've got, most of the games during the regular season are night games, et cetera, et cetera. Where things get a little bit jumbled is during the playoffs, because the network sometimes will have all-day playoff games, and you may be the team that gets the short straw, and you're playing the noon game on a Sunday. Well, the noon game on a Sunday goes completely against your clock. And the team that has to go east has a disadvantage on the noon games for early noon games. Granted, does not happen during the regular season hardly at all, but during the playoffs you may have 1 or 2 games. And I do remember in 2006 against Miami, we had an early game at which I'm pretty sure my memory is correct on this, we lost. And that's when Avery asked, well, what can we do? Well, you have to wake people up ASAP. So the sleep specialist said, try to stay on your clock if you can, but if you can't, then loud music, sunlight, bright lights. So what we did in the breakfast room at the hotel, opened all the curtains, brought in outside lights, and had music playing. That's how you wake people up. So
any parent out there is like, yeah, I do that to my kids.
Yeah. So May and I were going back and forth on this on is it a disadvantage for West Coast teams to go east or East Coast teams to go west? I think the science says it's definitely a disadvantage for the West Coast teams to go east and play an early game. However, in the NFL, there's only 8 games, right? 8 away games, 6 home games.
Yeah, it's probably not affected as much in the NFL.
I think their clock is different. The guys' clock is different. They're used to getting started early.
But I may be wrong.
College, you guys played early.
Yeah, and we hated it. You think the pro guys hated it? You go wake up a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds for an 11 a.m. game.
That just makes.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what happened. They would come in 6:15 wake up call. You had to be down because pregame breakfast was always pregame meal was always 4 hours before kickoff. And so, yeah, it was a little sluggish, and guys were not used to that.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's a disadvantage.
And that's on your own time clock.
On time clock, yeah. So, I've always wondered how a team like the University of Hawaii handles things. Because half of their games, I don't care if it's volleyball or soccer or whatever, half of their games, it's going to be a huge time difference.
Here's where the role of caffeine comes in, and I bet there's something to that. Speaking of caffeine, so to get alert and revved up for a game, I guess no pun intended with the Revs. I cover the Texas Revs, the Revolution. The indoor football team here in town. And one of our players was trying to get revved up for a game, no pun intended, and chewed caffeine gum.
Ooh. I didn't know there was such a thing.
I wasn't sure either, and he said it hit him like a freight train.
Yeah.
And he started chewing the gum during warm-ups, and not even 10 minutes into warm-ups, he tells me he's all jittery. I'm like, well, what is going on? He goes, you want some of this gum? I said, no, I don't want any of that gum. What are you chewing? Chewing caffeine gum. And he said it just, like a ton of bricks, hyper, jittery, almost uncontrollable.
You know that. So we're chuckling. You're not chuckling. We shouldn't chuckle about this.
Yeah.
You know these energy drinks have an arrhythmia rate complication that can be deadly.
Unfortunately, there is a story of a kid, young teenager, who had I want to say a Red Bull, Mountain Dew, and another drink, all within a very short time frame.
Red Bull and
one other energy drink, and unfortunately passed away from an arrhythmia.
Yeah, so there are risks associated with this. And by the way, back to the caffeine thing, the Olympic Federation, caffeine is actually a banned substance once you cross a certain threshold. So you can have 2 cups of coffee, but if you have 4 cups of coffee, you'll fail your drug test. Isn't that interesting?
How do you monitor that? Because
they monitor the amount.
I know, but you better know who's your barista, I guess, who's brewing your coffee and how much caffeine's in it.
That being said, NBA locker room, there's always a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
And so
that's not a banned substance for the NBA.
It is not. Yeah. All right, so we promised. Oh, geez, we're up against another break.
Quick text question. Common thing I'll see. Question was, hey, my big toe. The little joint at the back of the big toe, so it's the big toe, basically where your big toe flexes, ton of pain, swelling in it, hurting. So the most common things you'll see is either gout or bad arthritis in that area.
Hallux rigidus.
Exactly, that's the medical term. And so the question is, what are some options? Well, first, make sure you get a diagnosis. An X-ray is a very simple thing, and that's the easiest thing you need. And once you get a diagnosis, there's a ton of treatment options. Rigid shoe wear will help so you don't have any mobility. Obviously, anti-inflammatories help. There's injection options. There's surgical options. There's an insert in the foot called a Morton's extension that can be placed in the shoe into the orthotic, which is basically just a rigid shank that sits under the toe, so the toe doesn't move a lot. If you don't move a lot and the toe is arthritic, less pain, better function. That's a simple, easy thing. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yep, that's turf toe is a very disabling injury in the sports medicine world. But I agree with Mayor. There's not much I can add other than make sure you have an accurate
this was great.
because gout is different.
We had a Hawaii athlete text in.
What did he say?
Saying he's a Hawaii alumnus, lives here in Dallas. When we went on road trips, we stayed for several days, if not weeks, to reset our clocks. I can't. That's crazy.
That is cool.
Well, it's great.
They must not go to many classes then.
Yeah. I missed the rest of the text. It got cut off. I'll have to send in the latter part. It says and I'm imagining it says we just missed a lot of class probably. But
Wow.
that's interesting. And I wonder what sport that is because I can't imagine that's for all sports.
Which brings me back to the fact that I don't like the Rockets even more.
You're ridiculous.
I'm we have to go on break.
I think
I'm
that's sports
absolutely
science.
insulted.
Why are you insulted?
I'm insulted that they went to the Bay Area before the series was over.
There's probabilities. Oh, so you're going to tell me they should have sat home?
Mavericks or the Spurs would have never done that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mavericks Spurs would have never done that.
You get the moral slap on the back? These guys are trying to win. What is the chances that with the... This was before they were up. This was when they were up 3-1 in the series. What are the chances that LA Clippers were going to come back on the Golden State Warriors?
Look, I get it. It's just something that's not done.
Okay. What do you mean not done?
Class teams don't do that. Quick
Class
little break.
teams. Oh my God.
Class teams don't do that.
This is trying to win. This is trying to win a sport here.
Yeah, good luck. They're not going to do it. Inside Sports Medicine, Sorial coming right back. 855-787-1033 is the phone number. 21,000 is the text number. Start off with the letters ESPN. Last segment, 14 more minutes.
Whose choice would it have been with the Mavericks? If you guys, same situation. You're the force.
Oh, they would have had a meeting on that. That would have been the athletic trainer.
Yeah.
That would have been the coach. That would have been Mark. Oh, that would have been
And you think
5 people.
And you think they would have gone?
They would have said no.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. No, it has come up.
Is it the optics
It has
of it?
come up. It is the optics of it. It is insulting to the other team.
I know, and they win.
Yeah, because you know what goes around comes around.
It's controversial.
You're going to have to play the Clippers next year. You will have to play the Clippers next year.
Look, it's controversial.
I tell you, it's just not done.
It has been done. So precedent has been set.
Let's see what happens.
There's a precedent
what
that
happens.
has been
Well,
set.
and there's another thing.
There's some gamesmanship to this.
Of course there is. I don't know that a 2-hour time difference is that big a deal that you have to be acclimated for. It's only 2 hours. You're going from Central to Pacific. I don't know that if I was an East Coast team,
Yeah.
maybe.
Look, that's my point. If it's night games,
It doesn't matter.
well, that's when it would matter. Go west earlier.
I'm trying to tell you, they're night owls. So whether they play at 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock, it doesn't matter to them.
But it may mess up their schedule. These guys
But
are creatures of habit. I don't know.
No, they are creatures of habit, but we play a lot of West Coast games. They have a routine for when they go out west. So this is nothing new. Where the wrinkle is I mean, we play 41 games on the road.
I know.
The wrinkle is when you throw in something like a noon game. That is a wrinkle. And that's what screws them up.
So are there stats?
There are stats.
We got
there are stats on that.
Sod,
Google it.
You're gonna have to look at
Google the team record. It's been
traveling West Coast.
Yes.
West Coast to East Coast.
You laugh. There are records on this.
No, but I agree with you.
There are studies on this.
But look, you're talking to Daryl Morey, Mr. Stat Guy, Mr.
Am I supposed to know who that is?
He's the GM. He's the guy that has. That's the way the Rockets play ball.
I hate the Rockets even more.
Hey Sod, what's the term I'm looking for? Daryl Morey, Rockets GM, all the
Analytics.
stat stuffs. Is it analytics? What is it? Just analytics. So we're fighting over here, me and Sorial, about the fact that the Rockets went over there, and I'm saying that this is probably something either Daryl Morey or medically or something that they went over there to get whatever advantage they can to travel to the West Coast early.
Call Zero Res today and let our technician come out, look at
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, but I mean, man, that would be some like really deep thinking if they actually did that. Very calculated.
That's overthinking.
Yeah,
it's a 2-hour time difference. It's overthinking.
Yeah.
There's no way that's going to work. And plus, how do you handle that when it's game 3? How do you handle that when it's game 5 and you only have one night in between? You're not going to go in there.
Zero Res, spell it forward, spell it backwards, it spells the same. Zero Res.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and 29 Acres is leading the charge in helping adults with autism. This summer, they're launching a 6-week summer transition experience for ages 16 plus, focusing on vocational opportunities and adaptive lake sports like wakeboarding, paddleboarding, and more.
Hey,
Year-round
Tennis Elbow
programming
coming
then
back.
begins in the fall. 29 Acres is asking their community to help fund scholarships by donating $5 per month. That's 1 cup of coffee, people. Donations can be made at 29acres.org/donate. That's 29acres.org/donate.
Springtime and classic cars go hand in hand. So don't miss the Park Cities Historic and Preservation Society's 4th annual Classic and Antique Car Show, sponsored by the Urban Group.
Those NBA teams traveling eastward have a winning percentage of 45.6 compared with 36.2 for teams that travel westward.
Admission is free. For more information on classic and new model car registration, or for
It is true that east to west
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
travel
whoa,
has a
whoa, whoa.
greater effect on performance. A performance and strength conditioning coach for the Dallas Mavericks, but it depends when the team leaves the East Coast to play West Coast teams, along with what time the games are played exactly, disrupting the circadian rhythm, etc.
It's centrally located near downtown with great views.
Shouldn't you also factor in the fact that the NBA East is the worst division?
Possible. Yeah, I don't know how far back these data goes, but they just published this. Like, this is October of 2018.
Really?
While sleep and jet lag influences success in a travel crazy NBA.
Wait, where are you?
Customer focused.
Coming back.
That's one.
Wait.
There's a bunch of these.
I told you there's a lot of it.
Me and my needs. That's why I go to Ewing Buick GMC. It's not just a dealership. It's a team.
The
of
West Coast
diligent vehicle
success
experts.
sparked the
When I'm
Celtics.
buying a Ewing, I don't worry about it.
I'm telling you,
Because
man.
I'm too busy dreaming about
There,
when.
somebody thought of this.
Ewing Buick GMC and let the Ewing
I
family
told
take
you,
from A to B
in 2006
and
we
beyond.
went into that.
Dallas North Tollway at Spring
We
Creek
actually
Parkway
went and
and
consulted.
online at EwingBuickGMC.com.
This summer, remember to keep it interessante, just like Dos Equis, the cerveza that makes summer, summer. Brewed to taste better at cookouts, it's the taste that turns any garden into a beer garden. And the reason Hawaiian shirts have pockets. Make summer unforgettable with Dos Equis. Keep it interessante.
Jam on Sports and Stuff, Monday morning at 9 with Jacques Taylor
What did you
and
Google?
Matt McLaren on
West
ESPN
Coast,
Radio,
NBA West Coast
102.3
winning
FM,
traveling
ESPN.
percentages from West Coast to East Coast.
That brings back memories. AAC, Dallas Mavericks games. I wonder if they still play that. Welcome back to Inside Sports Medicine. T.O. Sorial here. Dr. Mayer there. Wrapping up episode 695. We wanted to finish up with a little scientific segment that we're going to add to our podcast. Dr. Mayer, he picked this. So we see a lot of what is called tennis elbow. All of us in the sports medicine world see that. And I teased this in the first hour by saying the vast majority is not actually from tennis, but it's anything that causes you to grip. Now run with it.
Yeah, we just brought this up. I just saw a run of it in clinic. So he kind of explained it, the setup for it. So tennis elbow is all the tendons on the outside of your elbow, kind of the thumb side of your elbow. Again, with the gripping activities, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's tennis, whatever, it causes pain. People describe a soreness or an ache. I just can't stretch my elbow out. It hurts. In the morning, it's stiff sometimes. I feel it kind of radiate down the top of my forearm. They don't like to shake people's hands. That's the kind of thing you'll hear come in. And usually people have had it for a few months or weeks before they show up to my clinic, and sometimes they arrive for second opinions. And the treatment for it is is typically, like Dr. Sorial said, the vast majority, maybe 80-90%, can be treated non-surgically. The usual indications is anytime if you're going to need surgery, you got to have at least 6 months of non-surgical treatment, because a lot of this stuff can go away. The number one thing is figure out what in the world brought it on. You got it, whether it's your work, how is your mouth set up, how you sit at the desk, what sports do you play, what do you do activity-wise. I got to figure out something that changed, because that's where we can make better headway. Once we get that down, the next thing is, okay, the simple thing. So anti-inflammatory is a very simple thing, whether prescription or over the counter. A stretching activity, something very simple to do is lock your elbow all the way out and then let your wrist just break, like drop straight down and hold pressure. And I guess those watching on Facebook, just lock your elbow out, hold the back of your wrist, and just hold a 1 minute hold, just like that, stretching. Basically putting your hand on say if it's your right elbow, stretch your right elbow out, drop your right wrist, and put your left hand on the back of the hand, kind of between your third and fourth finger, and just push. The most common tendon that's involved in tennis elbow is the one that attaches to your third or your long finger, your middle finger. So that's the bone that you want to stretch and push down to create the best stretch for it, because that's vast majority of the time the culprit within tennis elbow and the one that becomes a problem. Other things to do, a wrist splint. A wrist splint is a very good thing to use, and people are like, why are you putting me in a wrist splint when my elbow hurts? Well, for the same reasons I just told you. All the extensor tendons on the side of the elbow cross the wrist joint, at least the majority of them do. Therefore, if you immobilize the wrist and the wrist stops moving up and down, or extension or gripping, you minimize the activity to the tendon at the attachment of the elbow. That's why a wrist splint works for this. Another thing, people wear these counterforce braces or these tennis elbow braces. The only way those things work, and I usually give people a physical exam trial in clinic to let them know if that's something that's going to work for them, if it's worth the money. You have to put pressure just kind of further down to the hand on the top side of your muscle and put pressure there, and then I'll ask them to resist against my long finger, my middle finger, against their middle finger. And if they have a pain reduction, then a tennis elbow brace may help them. If they notice no difference, then you're wasting your time and money, because no brace is going to push perfectly on the tendon as good as I'm pushing on it in clinic, and it's probably a waste of your time and money. Next thing, physical therapy. It does help. There's a lot of things therapists can do with elbow mobility, forearm, soft tissue techniques, all those things, and it's worth trying. And good physical therapists, and I work with a few who love this condition and love treating it. So whether an occupational therapist, a hand therapist can treat them, a physical therapist can treat them, there's some active release therapists that treat them, there's options. Another thing is you start talking about, okay, well, what about injections? You have injection options, and I think there's two big categories, the steroids and platelet-rich plasma. Steroids is not my preference. So a steroid is never going to promote healing, and in fact, if you inject a steroid into a tendon, you can degenerate a tendon, you can cause worsening, bigger issues with it. And so a steroid shot does not cure anything. It tries to minimize the pain, and all the other things I just told you, we hope that helps get rid of it. I do something more commonly called platelet-rich plasma. That's your blood spun down and the growth factors injected, and I do this under ultrasound. It's like aerating your yard and injecting fertilizer. If your yard looks like terrible and the soil is garbage, you till it up, you inject it with fertilizer, and that helps promote healing. Whereas a steroid is counterproductive and does not promote any healing whatsoever and can actually cause harm to the tendon. If that fails, we've been through about 6 months of it, you're tired of it, yes, surgery is a very reasonable option. There's different techniques to do it, but it's a very quick and easy procedure. It takes less than 10-15 minutes, 20 at the most probably. You're usually, my preference, in a splint for a few weeks, physical therapy for the next maybe 2 to 6 weeks or so, and usually by around 3 or 4 months, most patients are extremely happy back to their activities. Now, with the repair, people ask, is this going to come back? Well, if you go back to the same activities, the same bad habits, yes, it can come back. You know, I'm not God. I can't give you a better elbow or something, bionic. You just got to know, and hopefully all the education that puts you through will not get you back into that condition. So hopefully that's summarized pretty quickly in, 6-7 minutes, tennis elbow. And we'll have this on the podcast. If you missed a segment of it, you can watch it on Inside Sports Medicine on Facebook, or eventually our Inside Sports Medicine YouTube channel, as well as iTunes and eventually Spotify.
Yeah, what he said. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us on this live episode 695. We are wrapping up. We enjoyed Hopefully you enjoyed the Facebook Live aspect of the show today. We're going to try to do this every Saturday morning, and like Dr. Mayer said, you'll be able to catch this down the road either on our website or on our YouTube channel. So until next week, you can come see us at Texas Sports Medicine. You can send us an email. We're pretty good about responding to our email questions. If you don't hear from us in a day or two, that means there was a glitch, because we are very good about responding in a day or two. That being said, have a fantastic weekend. The weather should cooperate. On behalf of all of us here on Inside Sports Medicine and ESPN 103.3, until next week. So when do you turn off the Facebook?
Now. Oh. We'll turn it off. All right, guys, we're out. We'll do this next week.